Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Concordia University's second Lead Talk. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today, and we have an exciting topic that we're going to talk about. So please stay with us at the end because we have an opportunity for you to win a book about the very leadership topic that we are talking about today. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, my name is Suzanne Siegle, and I'm the campus dean here of the business school at Concordia University, Ann Arbor, and one of my passion areas and research areas is leadership and leadership communication. So today we're going to talk about the psychoanalytic theory, transactional analysis. Now, some of you may have heard about this, and that's great, but if not, I'm going to share a little bit about the benefits of understanding transactional analysis to become a more effective leader. So transactional analysis is actually a post-Freudian or beyond Freudian theory in popular psychology. Freud looked more at people's personalities, and you might remember reading about Freud. He talked about the id, the ego, and the superego. Well, Dr. Eric Berne came out and wrote a book called Games People Play, and that's the book that we have for you if you win our contest at the end, so that we can give it to you and you can learn more about this. And he talks about, instead of looking at personalities, behaviors and transactions or exchanges and communications between people. And that was his research focus, and that's what applies mostly when we look at leadership and organizations. And transactional analysis says, how do people have transactions with each other? How do they communicate, evaluate, see the world, and relate to one another personally and professionally? And for leaders, communication is so important, right? It's key. How much time is wasted in organizations because of miscommunications, because of conflict, because of arguments? So if I told you there was this theory, there was this magic language we could all learn, that we all speak because we all share a common human psyche, that would help us be better people, better professionals, and better leaders, wouldn't we want to know it? Well, that's the theory of transactional analysis. So the way it works is it talks about 3 ego states. And Eric focused on these as the parent, the adult, and the child. So we'll briefly talk about all 3 of these. The parent ego state, and we all have these, by the way. It's not like some of us just get lucky and get the child or the adult ego state, but we all have these 3 ego states, and we move into them interchangeably because of stimuli in the world and how we interact with people. Well, the parent ego state is 2 parts. Nurturing parent, supportive parent, we kind of can think about that. Someone says, how are you doing today? Are you doing okay? Can I help you? And then critical parent. This is that critical voice we have in our heads, the tyranny of the should. You shouldn't do that. They shouldn't operate that way. Who's she to talk about to me like that? He shouldn't wear that. That's the critical parent, that voice in our head that we sometimes say, my gosh, I sound like my mother. Well, that doesn't happen accidentally. It's because we have these parts in our psyche, in our minds that we've been living with. And so critical parent comes out a lot for leaders and organizations. Sometimes if your boss gets frustrated at you, he or she might say something like, well, you shouldn't have been late. Did you know that you were late? And they're operating from critical parent, not the most effective. The second state is the adult state, and that's problem solving. That's the most healthy state for us to be in when we are at work. It's your problem solving, your communication, you're authentically looking at an issue and trying to resolve it. No drama, not highly emotionally charged. It's the actual adult interaction. And then the third ego state is the child ego state. And we have this even in adulthood. And it's a beautiful state because there are 2 parts to that. The first part is free child. It's the fun person, right? It's the one at work that may throw a surprise birthday party and you say, wow, I had no idea Jackie was so much fun. I only see her in a work setting. So free child is creative, it's innovative, it's adaptive. And we don't want to lose that part of it because we need that sometimes in our workplace. We can't always be in adult problem-solving mode. We have to be in creative mode. But the second part of the child is adaptive child, and that is formed in response to the critical parent. So imagine a situation at work where you have a leader, a boss, who's getting upset because work was not done and says to someone, John, you really should have managed your time better. I just don't think that's a good idea what you did. And John says, yeah, I know, you're right. I'm just awful at what I do. I can't get through this. That would be an unhealthy interaction because they're not actually working to solve the problem or get the thing done. And then John leaves feeling defeated, and his boss leaves feeling angry and upset that he got mad. And this type of conflict can continue on and on in organizations. There's even a part of transactional analysis that talks about life scripts, ways of operating people develop because of their childhood or because of their early life, beliefs they have about the world that could be false. And all of this impacts how they operate at organizations. Now, this is happening on a subconscious level. The behavior is conscious, but the motivation is subconscious. So Think about a time when you've been at work and you've been interacting with someone and you wonder, why is it going this way? Why are we having conflict? This person just seems like they have to have conflict in order for us to get along or in order for us to relate. It could be because some of this is going on. And there are life scripts that say, hey, it's better that I get some recognition from someone, even if it's negative, so I'll cause conflict and then I feel okay. Now, what does all this mean? Now, I know this is a lot, I will say that, so that's why please stay with us at the end, because we have this book to give you, Dr. Eric Byrne, Games People Play, that will explain this in a much more detailed view. And I'll tell you, once you get this information, it's transformational. It helps you understand yourself, the world, you operate differently. It's phenomenal. So I can't speak about this enough. Please stay with us and please read this book. But the concept is, when you have an organization and you're trying to solve problems and be healthy and interact with each other, leaders have to be aware of this. Just like modern medicine, we come out with new ways of doing surgery or new dentistry. This is a new way of looking at things. It's not super new. It came out in the 1960s, but it's an evolutionary study in psychology that says, look, there's more going on sometimes in conversations and transactions than we're aware of. So what can leaders do? Well, first they have to be aware. They have to know themselves very well. We talked about this in a lead talk 2 weeks ago about before you can really govern and oversee others, you have to know yourself and be able to handle yourself and your own issues. And they have to work through some of their scripts. And they have to work hard to stay in the adult state. It might be very difficult. You might be really mad at one of your team members, but you have to talk to them with respect and like an adult, because then you invite them to respond that way. If a leader goes all critical parent on someone, then they're going to invite the adaptive child, and that's not a positive interaction. It just creates unrest, it creates frustration and anger, and nothing gets done. The problems don't get solved, the initiatives and the projects don't begin. So leaders have to know themselves, and they have to know and be aware enough when members of their team might be moving between these ego states. Now, we don't want to lose all of them. We don't want to lose nurturing parent. We don't want to lose free child. But an unhealthy fixation or an inordinate amount of time spent in critical parent or an adaptive child makes for unhealthy organizations. Now, Europe has figured this out so well. Europe is amazing because they do so much training in organizational development with transactional analysis, because organizations can actually take on an ego state. There are some organizations that can take on a parent ego state or a child ego state, and they're constantly in defensive mode or they're constantly in critical mode. And that's where they help people, they help leaders and teams be more effective. So I will tell you, this is an incredible book. It's an absolutely incredible theory to read, to know yourself more. You can spend a year researching the different aspects. But it's important to understand yourself, to understand others, and to know how to have more positive interactions. Now, one thing we do at Concordia in our Master of Science and Organizational Leadership, and that's a one-year program, by the way, is we go deep into transactional analysis in the organizational communication and negotiation course. Now, I happen to teach that course, so that's why we cover this. And the feedback has been incredible. We've had students say, I didn't know this, now I'm aware of it, and I can bring better and more positive interactions to the workplace. So that's what's so important. Concordia, our mission is to prepare men and women in mind, body, and spirit for service to Christ in the church and in the world. And this is part of that mind part, is that we want to make sure we give people the tools to be healthy and to talk about this. And it's very difficult, because sometimes being self-aware and looking inside can reveal a lot of things we have to change and improve and grow in. But that's what makes this so exciting, right? That's what makes these lead talks so exciting, is we have a chance to come together and do this. So please, if you have an opportunity to ask any questions, we welcome that at the end. If you have any comments you want to share or questions about transactional analysis, but please stay with us, because I definitely would tell you, read this book. It's absolutely amazing. And then once you understand it on a personal and professional level, you can get books that talk about how leaders can use this to really move organizations forward and build positive cultures. And it's a transformational experience. So I'm just so excited to be here with everybody. Thank you so much for your time and for joining. And hopefully we'll get together again soon. I'd love to hear how your book reading went, and if you have any questions from this.